So our program, as you can see, it's quite simple one. When first I start my server here or my program, if I refresh, by default, I have a code and I have the author of this code. And of course, I have a button here. So by default, first, when I refresh my page, I have a code. And after that, each time I click on this button, it will give me a different code, as you can see. And if I click on it, click again, it gives me different code, as you can see. Sorry. So how can we create this program here? Catherine, don't worry about the to-do list now. A to-do list, you can finish it next week. I mean, it doesn't have to be finished this week. It's fine. So let's try to do this program. If I go to my VS Code, of course, I'm gonna delete the data here. I created in multiple files, but for you, I'm gonna create it in one file. It will be easy for you. I'm gonna delete all the code. And we can start here from scratch here. First, let's check our HTML. What do we have? So inside the HTML, as you can see, I just have a header, h1, which is random code generator. And then I have inside main, I have one container. This container, it will be for the code. Of course, I'm adding this class just for styling here. And my code here, the text, it will go here. The author will go here, just in p tag. And then I have another container for the bottom, and I have only one bottom here. Voila. So that's my HTML. As you can see, it's simple. It's not complex at all. All my elements being generated, they're already there. I just need to somehow to get the data and insert them inside this element. The HTML is clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For the CSS, of course, just some styling here. I mean, the body is header 1h1. The container, just a background, my background like that, and width and height. Text, which will be my code here, is just color white. The author here, it has different colors. Just make it a little bit whitey. The bottom also display flex. That's the bottom container. Display flex and justify content center, align item center to center the bottom in the middle. On my bottom here, I'm displayed in line block. Like that, it will be centered inside the box. So it's just some CSS. On hover, of course, it will give me this color, which I don't like. Maybe I can change it a bit. So let's try to make it something like that, blackish. So a little bit CSS, that should be fine. Now let's go to our JavaScript first. So I'm gonna open my HTML here. Of course, you will help me to build this project. So what will be the first step? First step?
Create the data.
Yes, so define my data here. Data like that. What will be the data? What type?
Data will be the code.
It will be what?
Codes.
Yes, but it will be a number, it will be an array, it will be an object. What type of data?
It should be the array.
I told you all the time, our data should be an object.
The object is
Once data is equal to an object. Now inside this object, now I can define something called codes, which that's the key, and the property here, it will be an array, as you can see. Now, inside this code, I can have an object. Why? Because each code need to have an ID. All the time we will need an ID. Why? Because the ID is unique identifier. I'll give it ID 1, and the code here, that's normal code, as you can see, and the author is this guy, for example. If I just expand it a little bit, so as you can see here, my code, the single code, it will be an object inside this array, as you can see. So it has an ID 1 code, that's the code. The greatest glory in life lying is not never feeling whatever, Nelson Mandela. Of course, I don't need one code, I need multiple codes. So now I need to create another object with ID 2. And here I can add this code, I don't know, this guy here. And after that, of course, you can add your data the way you want to here. It's just some code here, ID 3. And now here, let's add this code and the guy who said it. Let's make it a little bit more. ID 4. So all the time when we have multiple stuff, we need to have an ID. ID is unique identifier. In a few modules, we will see why the ID is super important. For now, it's not important, but anyway, that should be enough for me, I think. When we reach, okay, that should be enough, I think. But that's multiple lines, so it will not work. So I need to put it in one line. That should be good. So as you can see, my data is an object. Inside it, I have a key, which is codes as a plural. It's just an array of objects. And each object here, it will be one simple code here after that. So that should be okay, fine. I'm just going to close the data. Let's go to the second step it will be. So finish the data. The second step it will be. You are sleeping?
Usually the
DOM?
Yes, it will be DOM simply. So data after that DOM. So also my DOM here, it will be will be an object as we learned. So const DOM is equal. Now, which element do I need? Which element do I need to select here? Which element are important for me?
Text after.
Text
Button.
and author, and also
button.
I will need the button. Yeah. So that's only the items that are important for me. So, but the problem here with text, I don't have an ID. I have a class. So I cannot use get element by ID. I need to use something else. Any idea what should I use?
Query selector.
Yes. So there is not just one way to select the DOM element. I can just say simply document, Control Z, document dot query selector. And query selector, it works a little bit different than query selector. Work a little bit different than the ID, because query selector, it could work with IDs, with classes, even with tags. So if I pass here H1, it will try to select the first H1 I have on my page. So query selector select one element, remember. It selects only one element. Maybe I have multiple elements. For example, if I say P here, select me the tag P, but I have two P's here. Which one it will select? Again, document.query selector, it selects returns the first element. And here I have two P's here. Which one it will select?
Text.
Text. Why? Because it's the first one. Yes, but I'm not gonna do that. Of course, I need to be careful here. I shouldn't use tag. Tag is not a good way. So also with query selector, I can select any element with class or with ID. But if it is an ID, I need to add hash and the ID, whatever the ID is. If I'm dealing with classes, it must be dot. I need to use dot, because query selector work with IDs, work with tags, work with classes, work with everything. Now here I'm trying to select an element with this class. So what I need to do here, I need to say dot text, and like that, it will select me my text, as you can see. So it's not like the get element by ID. I'm just gonna pass the ID without anything. No, with query selector here, if I'm selecting an element with a class, I need to say dot and the name of the class. If it's ID, I can also use it to select any element with IDs. I need to add hash symbol. If it's tag, if it's unique tag here, I can just put the name of the tag. That should be okay. I want also to select the author, as we agreed. So author, I can use the same technique here, document.query selector.author, as you can see, voila, because it has a class author. For the bottom, it has an ID, so I can use document.get element by ID. So I can just say btn document.get element by ID, voila. And here I'm just passing the ID btn. Is the idea clear?
Is there a difference when you typed text and two dots, colon, and when you do text dot document or equal?
Here you mean?
No, in the start, after text, if you do equal, is there a difference?
Of course there is a difference. You cannot use equal because you are inside an object. So inside an object, Daniel, we agree. So const person, inside the object, we cannot use equal here. It's the syntax is key value. Voila, like that. Comma, key value. And then if I want to add another property, key value. If I want to add another property, key value. I am not allowed to use equal inside an object. I mean, if I
Okay.
replace it with equal, it will give me an error, of course, as you can see. Voila. It's because I am inside an object simply. Okay, so I have data, I have DOM, I've decided everything. That's great. Now I need to define my event. So what event do I have? Yes, so here let's define our events here. Voila. So what are my events?
Click.
Yeah, before the click, do you remember when I refresh my page here? When I refresh my page, I already had a code here and I already had the author here. So
Load.
when yes, exactly. So the first event here, it will be on load. So I need to say, I can just say Windows dot add event listener, and the event here, it could be load. Okay, load like that. And here, of course, now I need to add my function, which will be a load handler. I can name it load handler like that. So that will be the first event. Before the click, we have load. Why? Because simply, if I go to my page or my website, when I refresh, when I load my page, it automatically create one for me. So I will have a code here with the author automatically. So I need somehow to handle this event as well. So how can I handle this event? Well, I can just say Windows.add event listener, and the event is load. Load mean when my page is loaded, then if this event, it will be triggered. So let's create this function, which we don't have, of course. This function, it will be, what will be this function? It will be
Load
what's this
handler.
one? Yeah, so it will be handler. So I can just say const, voila, load handler, voila, and I'll just make it as an arrow function. Now, of course, to show you here what I'm going to do, I'm going to log high for a page loaded, for example, or something like that. Now, if I go to my website and open my DevTools, when I refresh my page, see, the page is loaded. So the event is triggered. Why? Because on load, when your page is loaded, then this event, it will trigger. And that's really what I want to, because I want, when my page is loaded, I want to put here inside the text and inside the author, I want to put a code. Because that's good, that's fine. But now my first event is working, it's fine. I've tested it, I've logged something, I can see inside my console. So now what I need to do, I need somehow to get a random code from these 8 codes here. I need to get one random one of those. And then I need to access my DOM element, the text and the author, and I need to add whatever the one I selected randomly, and I want to put it inside. So the text here, the code, it must be inside the text, and the author must be inside the author here. So how can I do that?
Floor, random floor. Mat the floor, sorry.
Okay, so maybe I can first put it in a variable. I can just say const random, because it's a random here, random code. Random code. So random code, what it will be? It will be mass.floor.
Yeah, mat.floor.
Mass.floor. Yes, and after that?
Function, then mat.random.
Math.random.
By
Multiply
the
by
length of the
length
of
of
the
the,
data. Data
so,
codes dot length, something like that.
so it will be data dot
Codes dot length, something like that.
length. Okay, of course, this one, it will not give me the random code. It will just give me what it will give me here. What's that? What's these equations gonna give me?
It will
It
give
should
you
be
the
index.
Indeed. So it will give me a random index between 0 and how much? So it will give me between 0 and 7. Yes, 0 and 7. Why? Because the length of my array is 8, and here I'm multiplying it by mass.random. You know, mass.random, it gave me number between 0 and 1. It will never give me 1. 1 is excluded. So that means it will be 0.99 here. When I multiply it by 8, and I'm making it floor, so the maximum index I will get, it will be 7. Let's log it to make sure that it is working. So I can just say, voila. Go here, and now as you can see, it gave me 3. If I refresh, it give me 0, 7, 2, 6, 2, 5, and so on and so on and so on. It will give me just 0, different random number, but the maximum number, it will be 7. It will not give me more minus than 7, simply like that. Because I'm using here mass.floor, so it will give me 7 point until 9, something like that, but I'm using mass.floor, so I'm getting rid of the floating point part, so I will have just an integer, which will be maximum 7. Okay, this one should be simple. We use the same, I think, with another program. We use it. I don't know what was the program. I think it was change background color. That's fine. Now I have the random index. And now I want the random code. So how can I get the random code here? I can just say const random code. It will be equal to data dot codes bracket on the index.
That
Voila.
index.
Of course, now if I log it, what it will be? So the random code, what it will be is the data of random code. What type of data? It will be one random code. What it will be?
An object.
Yes, indeed, it will be an object. Very good. So let's try to log this one to make sure that I'm getting what I want to here, random code. So let's go here. And as you can see now, I'm getting a code, the last code with ID 8, which is, I'm getting an object with the author ID and the code here. If I refresh again, it will give me the one with ID 4 and its object as well. So as you can see, all the time I'm getting an object. And this object here, it will be a code, of course, with author, with ID, with a code. That's great. Now, of course, when I'm getting it, what should I do now? Well, this guy is an object, as you can see. Now, I want somehow to put this guy, this code, because it's a string, I want to put it inside this DOM element. And also, I want to put the author here inside this author element. So how can I do that? Should be simple, huh? Yes.
Yes. Append that's
Inner text.
Inner text, indeed. So I can just say DOM to access my DOM element dot what I have. I need the text dot inner text, or inner HTML, doesn't matter here. Inner text. It will be equal to random code, and random code is an object, as you know, and inside it we will have code. Voila. Let's make sure that it's working now. And now, as you can see here, I have my code here randomly going to the click, it give me another code. Click, it give me another code. Each time because each time I load my page, it will give me a different random code. Well, of course, now I need to add the author as well. So in order to add the author, also I need to access my DOM object. Inside the DOM object, I have author, and I can use inner text as well. Inner text, and here I can use random code because it's an object. Random code dot author. Well, that's author. Voila. ID, I don't need the ID for now, but just the structure of data always require an ID. Currently, I don't need an ID. And now, as you can see, click. Now it will give me one code with the author as well. Every time I refresh, it gives me a different code. Sometimes it could give me the same code, depend really, because the mass.random here, it's just give me numbers between 0 and 1. So maybe it could give me the same number for the second time. It is possible. That's okay. That's not bad. But now what I want to hear, I want also not just to load the page. I want when I click on this button, also it give me a new code. So how can I do that? Well, now I will need to add an event to my button. What will be the event? What is the event?
click.
Yes, so I can just say dom.btn, add event listener, and the event, it will be click. Should I create a new function, or maybe this function work? Does this function work for me?
Yeah, it should be able to work with it.
Okay, so I think this function, it will work as well. Because this function work on both of them, it's not a good idea to name it load handler, because actually we are not using it only for the load. We are just using it also for the button. So maybe I can rename my function. So click, and here I can just name it, for example, code handler. It will be better, code handler, because we don't use it only for the load. We use it also when we click on the button. So I'm just gonna give it different name so it will be clear. Now here, if I refresh, it gives me a code. If I click on my button, see, it is working. Each time I click on the bottom, it will simply randomly generate a code, and then it will try to update the, if I see my, voila, this guy here, notice, both of them are being updated. So when my DOM is flashed, so there's just an appear like that, it's flash, that means it's being updated, as you can see. So the only thing, two things being updated here is this p tag, which is text, and of course the author as well, as you can see. That's good, not bad. But my question here, do you think this function is good enough? Mm-hmm. Do you think this function is good enough? Mm-hmm.
I think you have to create another function to
Yeah.
stop the repetition.
It's not just a repetition here. So as you can see here, I'm trying to get a code. When I'm trying to get a code, maybe I can create a simple function for that to give me the code. So I don't really have to write this code inside my handler. I can just create a function and I tell my function, give me a code, and it will give me a code, simply like that. So here I can create a function, and this function I can name it, for example, const get code. And get code, of course, as you can see, voila. For now, we will do it this way. So now I can just cut this one from here, cut this code, put it here. So now all I need to do here, say random code. And of course, I am allowed to do so because they are inside different functions. They could have the same name. And now here, I just call my function. It will give me the random code. So nothing changed really. But now inside my function, I need to do something here. What do I need to do?
To return the value.
Yes, so I need to return random code here. And still it will be working without any problems here. As you can see, it's still working without any problem. No problem at all. So what's the reason? Why did I separate this? Well, of course, now the project is very small. That is the reason why you cannot see why we are separating. But when the project become complex, the function which deal with data, I told you yesterday, this function here, as you can see, get code, I can pass my data like that with, and here it can receive the data. Where's my data? Like that. It doesn't matter a lot actually. So I'm passing the data here, and it return me some data as well. What type of function take data and manipulate the data and then give me back my data? What do you name this function? I give it a name yesterday.
Util.
Yes, indeed. Very good. So util function or logical function. So util functions comes from utility. That means just helper functions that help us to do something, or logical function. So the functions that take data, as you can see here, take data, and do some calculation, and after they give me another data here, because random quote is an object, and here to return me data. So simply we call this one utility function. I'm not gonna create another function here. Later on, we will learn another type of function, but for now, my code should be good enough. Yes. As you can see, everything is organized. My handler is just, I have one handler. Here I have utility function or logical function. The logical function, what it is do? Well, I just give it data, I feed it data, and here it calculates the index for me. Then it try to get one random code, and then it return this random code. So here, just job of this function here, it will just try to access my data and give me, each time I call it, it will try to give me a random code object. And voila, that's it. Question. I'm gonna stop recording, so if you have a question, you can ask.